What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you're checking out Podcasting Business School, the show where I teach podcasters how to love their show like a hobby and build it like a business. Today, we've got a very special podcast audit session with my Pod Pals, Will and Karen from the Skeptic Metaphysicians podcast. I'm very excited to dive into this one. Will, Karen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right. So we already had some interesting banter before we even got started. So I can't wait to dive into this one. This is all about you and serving you. So I want you to both think, all right, 6 months from now, we're all having another chat. Things have gone really, really well. So whatever advice I gave you, it was the thing, and you just blew up and you've really experienced some momentum. So 6 months from now, if everything's really cranking, really feeling good, can you guys paint that picture for me? Why don't we start with Karen on this one?
Oh gosh. Well, we would have already gotten back from New York from winning the Signal Podcast Awards. Gosh, I don't know. We have 3 fans. No, we've been to some wellness expos, and we've actually had people come out and meet us. So maybe in 6 months, maybe we'll have 10.
All right.
Yeah, we're excited,
Nice.
Just getting the word out.
Yeah. Will, what about you, man?
And by fans, I think she means local fans that actually come out to see us. I'd love to see us reach 1,000 downloads an episode in 30 days. That would be my ideal threshold. We're not there yet, but little by little, we're building it. So love to see that.
Yeah. And for those that are listening in, that 1,000 download per episode at the 30 days post release, that's a benchmark I toss out quite a bit. And I'm trying to make more podcasters aware of this. Like the first initial benchmark is 125 downloads per episode 30 days after it's out there in the wild. So if we release this episode today, it has 125 listens, 125 downloads in 30 days. That puts it in the top 50% podcast position. If you do 1,000, it's top 20%. And that's give or take a few downloads, but that's a great goal to have as a top 20% podcaster. Like that's something to definitely be very, very proud of. All right. So download growth. We want to focus on that. What do you two feel like is the main thing impeding you from hitting that goal right now? What's the roadblock? What are we struggling with that we could talk about today?
I think more than anything else, it's like everybody else, it's awareness, making sure people know we're out there. I think once we capture an audience, people do enjoy the show, so they tend to stick with us. If you look at our Apple Podcast stats, we keep increasing the subscriber count or the follower count, and knock on wood, very seldom do we have a negative follower count. So there's always been plus 10, plus 14, plus 16.
Nice.
We haven't had a negative count at all in the last several weeks. Again, I'm knocking on wood, but so it's really getting the name out there, letting people know we're out there in this space. So people who are interested in this type of content, letting them know that we're out there is our biggest hurdle.
Okay. So we definitely want to look at search engine optimization on this. And like from a podcasting perspective, I released a recent episode where I talked about how podcast SEO is different than website or blogging or even YouTube SEO. And we have to be very, very concerned with when a new potential listener that would be great for our show goes into Apple Podcasts, goes into Spotify, what words are they putting in the search bar? Because that is critical information for us as far as, okay, how do we incorporate those terms, those phrases, those words into our brand with the show name, with what's in our host description, what's in our episode descriptions as well. So let's kind of reverse engineer this a little bit. Who is the ideal person that should be listening to your show? Who are like the super fans of your show? And what kind of terms do you think they might be searching for out there in podcast land?
We have such a wide variety of people that listen to our podcast. What for me, the target that I like are the people that are just starting to get interested in this, and they're not really sure. Metaphysical sounds woo, kind of, So it's like a little toe dip into this. We have so many different modalities and people that we talk to, and so many different topics that are all kind of encompassed into that one. So my concern is people thinking that they might not be able to find out about, I don't know, alien encounters if they listen to us, or we have a lot of Christian people that listen to us, or it's just kind of making sure everybody knows that we cover it all.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Will?
Yeah. I think I agree with Karen. I think really our ideal listener is either someone who is in this space and is looking for inspiration from some of the experts in the industry, or those that are just learning about it and aren't sure, they're skeptical about stuff, right?
Mhm.
When we started the show, we joked because Karen and I were, or actually, I was a skeptic metaphysician because I was very skeptical. I needed scientific proof to prove all this stuff. But now, after 2 years of doing this thing, we're less skeptical, and rather the skeptic metaphysicians are our audience. The people that are listening to our show are the skeptic metaphysicians who are interested in the stuff, but they're not 100% sure they believe in it 100%.
Mhm.
You
Okay. And that's something to think about with the name of the show. 99% of people that come on a podcast thought we talk about the show name because I've screwed it up every single time I've launched a show. Like that's just the thing that we do as podcasters. We come up like my original name for this show, which is Podcasting Business School, which has great SEO. And a lot of people search podcasting tips. I pull up the original name of the show was Casting the Pod, a play on words, an inside joke that no one got, not even my mom, nobody listened to the show. So we have to be very careful about being creative and cute with our names. I don't think you guys did that, but it could be a little confusing because I try to go in with a fresh mind and go, okay, I'm on Apple Podcasts. This name pops up. Is it clear or is it confusing? And the confusion point for me was what you just described. Are you too skeptical about the metaphysical space and you're kind of like tearing it apart? Or is it for the audience that is skeptical about the metaphysical space and they're kind of metaphysical curious? So that was the clarity or the confusion point that was in my head as somebody that hasn't listened to
Sure.
the searching. So that's an issue that you may want to consider as far as who you want listening to the show. So if you want those people that are skeptical but are curious about the metaphysical space, we may add a word or just kind of there may be something there that we could do to I think it's a micro tweak with this one. I don't think it's a total start over, do something different, but it could be the difference of one word that's in there that we add or reverse order or something like that. And it could become very, very clear of like who this is for, as far as a listener standpoint. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So we've toyed with the idea of putting one of those little up arrows and then put not, like the not so skeptical
Yeah.
metaphysicians. We toyed with something like that. But our concern is that we do have an engaged audience now that knows the show as it is. So what kind of impact would it have for us to add something or change it or anything like that? Something for us to consider.
Yeah. I mean, that's a consideration for sure. Go ahead, Karen.
So we're still on both sides of the line there because we are, our audience is potentially skeptical, but we do ask those questions. Were you drinking when this happened?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It's like,
How many drugs are involved in this? Yeah, we do ask those questions.
Okay. So do you think people are searching? Do you think metaphysical? Do you think that word is something that people are putting in a podcast search engine for when they're searching for a show like this?
So we have a tagline that's called it was metaphysics 101. And I think metaphysics is a term people search for, whether it's metaphysics or metaphysical. So metaphysician, maybe not so much, but since we have that tagline. So my question is the tagline SEO worthy, or is it really need to be the title itself?
Great question. All right. So as far as like latest intel that I've got from, I go to Rob from Libsyn, which is like one of the oldest OG podcast hosts. And I ask him these type of questions like, okay, does this matter? Does that matter? Like he's the one that told me rating and reviews do nothing for your download numbers on like, as far as like Apple podcast exposure and things like that. Right. And I was like,
it's more social proof, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But everybody thinks you do that and Apple's going to show your show to more people and they don't. Like so that was something that that's an example, something that blew my mind from Rob. But he said that whatever is on the title line has the most pull when it comes to search engine optimization, like the actual title of the show. So if you have a subtitle, add it to the title line in your host and not in the designated subtitle line, because that only shows up on, it's like a vanity thing on certain podcast players, basically. So add it to the actual title line. So you've got your main title, like semicolon, and then the subtitle right there. And you don't have to use that in any of your branding or your logo or anything, but I call it just an extended title. And we try to get some more keywords in there. So like you could even add something like, all things metaphysical, spiritual, or not spiritual, just add some more hot button words like ghosts, aliens, weird shit, whatever.
Yeah. Well, how
Yeah.
long could we make the title though? I mean, because we could talk, we could throw keywords in there and then have
you
a
could stuff some
5-page
keywords
title.
in there. Yeah. I mean, you could stuff some keywords in there. I mean, you don't want to be obnoxious with it, but I mean, I think having a list of 3 or 4 keywords is totally fine. I know a lot of people that do that. And again, this isn't used in any of your branding, really. It's just kind of keyword stuffing that title that has the most power, the most pull when it comes to search engine optimization. So if you want to pull up for certain terms, that's something to seriously consider. Now, the other zone that's a little less, difficult to digest as a podcast. I know what it feels like to be like, have that realization. Should I change the name? Should I not? And it's like, it's your baby and you really don't want to do it. So if we go that route, the host description, we can do some magic in there that really makes a difference. So wherever you host at, it's like the description of your show. I'm not talking about individual episodes. I'm just like like when people see your show for the first time, it's like, this is Will and Karen, and we talk about blah, blah, blah on this show or whatever. So I want 2 or 3, 4 sentences. That's the general stuff, the description of what you talk about, topics, but keyword the heck out of that. So that's where we talk ghosts, woo-woo, aliens, whatever, back from the dead experiences, anything at all that you think your listeners are searching for. All right. We put that in those 2 description sentences or, a couple paragraphs, whatever it is. Then below that, we add what I call the Google questions. I want 5 to 10 Google questions. So you think, all right, now what questions would somebody that's an ideal listener for my show enter into Google? So, and the way we frame this together, you have your 2 intro keyword stuff paragraphs. Then below that, if you're searching for answers to questions such as, and we go Google, Google, Google. So it would be like, is there life after death? Do aliens exist? All these things that somebody that would be a great listener for your show, they would put into Google, add those Google questions, because that will actually help your show pull up for those questions when people do Google them. And then to get extra bang for your buck on that is take those and try to make those episode names if you can. So if you have somebody that comes on and talks about aliens, take that same title and pop it in that episode title. And that's going to help. Really, I've seen people just double, triple, quadruple, 10x their downloads just from changing their host description with this technique. I mean, I see it happen a lot where it's that hockey stick growth because now the right people are finding your show. And I think with the name of your show, like sometimes people have really obscure names and it's like the Adam Show. And it's like, what is this about? Like if somebody sees the name of your show, they know we're in the metaphysical space. So I'm in the right playground.
I wanted to call this the Will Show, but Karen said, no, definitely not. I don't know why.
The Will Show. And sometimes Karen also.
Yeah.
I listen to that.
Yes, you would.
The will is awesome. Willpower.
Oh, I like that one. The willpower hour. That's even better.
The willpower hour.
No, please stop. Please.
I honestly, like I get caught up in jokey episode titles, and I almost went worse than casting the pod. I don't think I've ever talked about this on the show before. My original idea was like, it's gonna be a podcast about podcasting. I'm gonna call it Unsubscribed. And I was like, it's so funny.
Yeah,
it's so funny. And like, I'm so glad I didn't do that because that's even more embarrassing. Unsubscribed, the podcast about podcasting. No. So I think if we do our work in the episode titles and in the host description, the right people will pop up. And then we kind of have that fishing line in the water with the name of your show that pulls people in. I like, metaphysical, the skeptic, metaphysicians. It creates curiosity. Is it's got the keyword. The main 2 ingredients I want in a really good name are 1 or 2 keywords and an identifier. And I feel like the keyword is metaphysicians, metaphysical space, and the identifier is the skeptical. Like, I'm curious about this. I'm I'm skeptical. I mean, maybe these people are skeptical. I'm kind of on the fence. Let's go find out more. So I think that is, I think that'll be good. That's just getting more people in front of it. So I think main homework is going to be, let's get in that host description. Where do you guys host your podcast at?
Spreaker.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we're going to get in there and just dress that up. Now, the next logical question that smart podcasters like you ask is, well, how the heck do we figure out these terms? And usually we have an idea of what we think, but anytime one of your listeners reaches out, or if you have a newsletter or a social media where you can put up a poll and go, hey, y'all, you listen to the show. Do you remember what you searched for, or what would you search for now if you were looking for our show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify? What words would you actually put into the search bar? And then just create a list and go, okay, these are all the words we need to start using in our host description. These are the words we need to use in our episode titles, because these are your listeners. And you go, this is the most valuable feedback you can possibly get. So I do this at almost an annoying level. Anybody listens to my show, they DM me on Instagram. They ask me a question, I answer it. I go, hey, by the way, where do you listen? What were you looking for? I just grill them on any information I can extract at all. Like if I was really smart, I just create like a little Google fill-in form or something. But I also like that personal touch. I'm just asking, I'm sending voice notes. Okay, so you entered podcasting tips. What popped up? What other shows popped up? I'm looking at like my competition, seeing what's happening. And really, I try to reverse engineer why they made the decision to click on my show and check it out. What episode did you listen to first? How many did you binge listen? I'm just going, as long as they'll talk to me, I'll keep asking questions. And that has served me extremely, extremely well. So just kind of be on the alert when you get an email from a listener or a DM, or there's somebody hits you up live, like just kind of ask a few basic questions and see if we can farm out a little bit of some of these keywords that we want to really be looking for. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm taking a note. So anyone DMs you, pounce. Got it. Okay.
Yes. Don't let go. Ask, and you're not trying to sell them anything. That's the cool thing. So they're like totally cool with it. Like, okay, yeah, we can. They're, people when they listen to podcasts, we kind of become podcast famous. Like we're that little voice in their ears, literally that voice of reason, or whatever, voice of something that's in their ears on a regular, that crazy voice in their head. Like we're there. And when we actually reach out and talk to them, and like, that's why I love on Instagram, somebody will DM me a question and I'll send them a voice direct message back and I'll mention their name. I'm like, hey, hope you're having a great Tuesday. Like I let them know it's really me. It's not my 12-year-old VA from the Philippines or anything like that. Like this is a real person. Right. And I want to actually interact with you. Mm-hmm. And they enjoyed that. And it's like, wow, sure. It's weird. You said my name. I'm like, yeah, it's your name, right? I'm here to interact. Let's have a conversation. I'm a real person. So yeah, they're totally, and it kind of makes them a part of the show. Like if I'm getting ready to, if I'm going to create something, or maybe you're looking to bring on a new sponsor, you can be like, hey, what do you think about this company? Or maybe the sponsor sent you some samples, or doing a giveaway with your sponsor, and you can kind of mention, hey, would you like to try this out? Our sponsor's doing this thing. Would you like to be part of our test group, or just anything to pull them into the show? And then kind of leveling up super fandom. Another idea I had for you all, because like you're in that niche space where people get obsessed and they're like, I'm going down this rabbit hole with my friends, Will and Karen, and we're going to totally nerd out on this. So
thanks for the friends thing.
Yeah. So something that we have been doing with my show is I'll ask my listeners to submit an audio clip with a fan favorite episode. So, but then I play the audio clip at the end of an episode, and it has worked extremely well for building super fans. So like, let's say there's somebody named Karen out there that's listened to like all 329 of my episodes, and she's just like obsessed with the show, and we interact on Instagram. I'm like, hey, Karen, would you mind submitting a quick audio clip of your most favorite episode, 60 seconds or less? Make sure you shout out your show so we can get you a plug on my show, and let us know why you love that episode. Then she records that audio. I use a little SpeakPipe link. It's free. It's super easy. Uploads the audio, and then she hears it on the back edge of an episode, And it's like, wow, I'm a listener. I'm a part of the show. I created content on the show. And like, I think it'll help you grow that super fan status. You get more super fans, you get more downloads, and they go tell other people. Like they're like, I got to tell my Uncle Jojo, I'm on the show. You got to go check it out. It's the one about, aliens or whatever, alien abduction. And, they're going to go share that one out. So that's another thing that you could do that would add kind of a cool, let's make the fans a part of the show element. So any ideas or thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that it's all great ideas. Maybe part 2 would have to be how to get more audience engagement, because that's something we do. We have had reviews, so we read those on the air. We shout out the person that wrote them out so that people, and we constantly say, send us a message. We might read it on the air. We do on our website. People can actually leave us voicemails directly on the site. They can send us emails, messages, things like that. So we interact a little bit, but it's minuscule, the amount of engagement that we actually get from the audience.
Okay. So you're thinking the right way, but and this is a mistake that all podcasters make. We do what you just said. Hey, send me an email with all your questions. And then no one does it, because the thing that we forget as podcasters is, what are our listeners doing when they're listening to our show? They're doing something else. They're multitasking. Right. They're driving their kid to school. They're not going to pull over and be like, got the email, Will. He said, I got to pull over.
I mean,
I'm going to stop my workout.
But you're probably right.
Stop the treadmill. I'm not going to do this next set of bench presses. I got to go email Will real quick. And they forget. So we have to, put that call to action out there in multiple ways, but also we got to chase people down. Like I've done a ton of these fan favorite episode things, and pretty much every single one of them, I'm chasing people down. Like, hey, remember you said you do that thing for me? I know this is the 5th time I've emailed you about it, but could you really do it this time? Like, I'm after them. Or I know there are people listening to my show, and just kind of getting a little bit of initial social proof. Other people hearing, these other people doing it, you just kind of get somebody that's a relative and they've listened to the show. Hey, will you record this for me real quick? You owe me $5, debt resolved if you do this. And
right.
Boom.
I'll pay you $5.
Exactly.
Don't say
exactly.
during the recording.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love being married to you also. No. Edit. So getting a few of those up just for social proof, and then, hey, use this link if you want to leave a fan favorite episode or a tip or a thought of the day or whatever on the topic. And just, you got to put in reps chasing people down at first, and then once you start to air them, then people be like, oh, that is a cool thing, and I am gonna remember to do that. So then if you do email marketing, like the way I hit people up is it social media, on the show, and email marketing. I'm putting that same call to action out there, and I usually will get them in one of those spots. They'll hear it on the show, then my email comes out like, oh yeah, that's the thing I was supposed to do for Adam, and then they'll hit the button, they'll record. So just kind of keep that in mind when it comes to engagement. You want to think about, am I initiating engagement? So like another thing you could do is, like in the DMs on social media or on Instagram or whatever, like if somebody new follows you, this is one of my favorite things to do. You can get 10 new super fans in 10 minutes doing this. So, and there's 2 of you, so that's 20 super fans. So what you do is you go to the last, let's just use Instagram. Let's go to the last 10 people that followed you on Instagram, and you go and you leave them a voice message thanking them for following you. And you mention what day it is. You mention their name. So you're like, hey, Will, I hope you're having a great Tuesday. It's Adam from Podcasting Business School. Just wanted to say thank you for following me. Here's what I talk about on this channel. Here's what I talk about my show. If you've never listened to an episode, I want you to start with episode 281, because I lay out the foundation for your podcasting success timeline. And I'll drop a link in the next message with that direct episode link so you can check it out. Be sure to let me know what you think. I'm here to interact. If you need anything, let me know. So it'll be 60 seconds or less. I'll mention their name, what day it is. I let them know I'm paying attention to them. Mm-hmm. And then I'll mention an episode to start off with. And then I'll send another message with just the link to that episode. Let me know what you think. And people appreciate it. And you can do that 10 people in 10 minutes, and you'll freak out with the amount of engagement you get. And you can do that a couple times a week, and you've got all kinds of engagement. And these are the people that are like, wow, thanks. I just checked it out. That was great. And you have a little back and forth. And that's when you hit them up with the other link. Hey, if you really enjoyed that, would you mind recording 30 seconds of audio, just mentioning why you liked it, and I'll put it on the show? Boom. Now we got
Gotcha.
enough audio for a year.
Now,
We're good to
can
go.
you do that with like, hey, you should listen to my newest episode because it talks about that, blah, 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 versus like,
Yeah.
because we don't have a
Yeah.
place to start per se.
Yeah.
Because every show is
Just a
different.
really good episode, latest episode. You can put up polls on Instagram and your Instagram stories and just have like a yes or no poll. And then one of those things, are you interested in alien abduction? Yes or no? Yes. Go and message all the yeses and go, you got to check out my next episode. Like one of them is the poison pill answer. One of them is the correct answer that needs to be listening to your show. And then you go and message all those people. And yeah, stuff like that. You're initiating engagement. We're not sitting on our podcasting butts going, oh, nobody emails me. Like we got to go out there and really stir it up a little bit. And I think you'll notice some positive results. So, wow, this time flew by. It was too fast today. All right.
It did.
We got to
It
make
was.
sure we can shout you all out. So where do people go? Website, social media, where do you hang out? Give us all the good stuff here.
Our biggest engagement is on Instagram.
Mhm.
So skeptic metaphysician _podcast. But probably the easiest way to find us is just to go to skepticmetaphysician.com. All of our social links are there. You can subscribe to the show directly from there. Like I said, you can send us a voicemail or an email directly from the site.
Stop what you're doing.
Right.
Pull over.
Right. But yeah, the skepticmetaphysician.com is the very best place to reach us for sure.
Outstanding. Well, Will and Karen, I've enjoyed having you on. Now we're officially pod pals. You can't get rid of me, good or bad. But I'm looking forward to seeing what you do. Looking forward to seeing you grow. And then maybe 6 months, we'll have that conversation and celebrate. So if you all are out there listening and you're like, yeah, wow, I'd really love to do a podcast audit just like Will and Karen, get on the website, get signed up, www.podcastingbusiness.school. Grab your spot. Spots are going quickly in the new year. All right. With that, I'm going to send everybody out there into the podcasting universe, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. I will see you next time.